this gesture and this moment, this denunciation of stupidities, despite this unique occurrence of the word bêtise in A Thousand Plateaux, are all the more significant and strategically decisive in this book, in that not only they are inscribed in the logic of the desiring machine of the anti-Oedipus, but also in that their necessity is announced in the very first pages of A Thousand Plateaux around the concepts of rhizome and deterritorialization, which are put to the test as examples, like the wasp or the orchid. The wasp or the orchid make rhizomes. You say rhizomes? They make rhizomes, so to speak, as heterogeneous, the wasp itself becoming a piece of the apparatus of reproduction, the reproduction apparatus of the orchid, or the examples of the baboon and the virus, the DNA of the baboon and the cat, the crocodile, and so forth. In the second chapter of A Thousand Plateaux, entitled 1914, that is the date of the First World War, 1914, one or several wolves, that's the title of the chapter, 1914, one or several wolves. Deleuze's sarcasm is unleashed against the treatment of the wolf mind by Freud. And there is a reference to Kafka's story, Jackals and Arabs. I'll delay citing the first sentences and the conclusion, namely an indictment of Freud, who is charged not with believing in what he was saying, which is also a machine in which he hypocritically pretends to believe. Rather, Freud is charged with having done everything here, everything he could, and the indictment is here ethical and even political. Freud is charged with having done everything he could to make the patient believe in what psychoanalysis was telling him, and trying to make him subscribe to it, and to subscribe to it with another name, a name different from his own, a name becoming the name of another, the name of the father, of course, patronym. There where there was not the name of the father, there where the new name, the brand new name that he had made for himself or stole upon him. So that is the question of recognizing the test and the substitution of someone's proper name by psychoanalysis, a dispossession that motivates on the side of Deleuze and against psychoanalysis in the name of the Wolfman, a style and logic of the complaint, of the counter-indictment. This is not far from looking suddenly like Artaud's discourse, Antonin Artaud's discourse on the theft of his own first name, of his new proper name, in his own body, which is supposed to be organless, sans organe, le corps sans organe, without organs, which means that the so-called bêtises, stupidities of psychoanalysis are not only the sign of a poverty of knowledge, that is a non-knowledge or incomprehension, but also an ethical violence. Ethical violences, machines, war machines, for subjecting, for stupefying, so to speak, ways of making the passions more stupid, more stupefied, so to speak, than they are in truth. There is, at the beginning of this chapter, a date, at the beginning of the narrative, a series of events and Freud analysis of the Wolfman at the time, that is, before or during the First World War. This is the sarcastic opening of the chapter 1914, one or several wolves, I quote Deleuze. That day, the wolfman rose from the couch, particularly tired. He knew that Freud had a genius for brushing up against the truth and passing it by, or then filling the void with associations. He knew that Freud knew nothing about wolves, or answers for that matter. The only thing Freud understood was what a dog is and a dog's tail. This is an allusion not only to the well-known dogs of Freud, but also to those of Lacan. Because Lacan had also dogs. Each was famous for having a dog. And the name of Lacan will soon appear in the genealogy of psychoanalysts. Deleuze goes on. It was not enough. It wouldn't be enough. The wolfman knew that Freud would soon declare him cured, but it was not the case at all, and his treatment would continue for all eternity under Brunswick, Lacan, Leclerc, etc. Which is true. He's still in analysis. All the analysts are in analysis with him. And Deleuze goes on. Finally, he knew that he was in the process of acquiring a veritable proper name, the Wolfman, a name more properly his than his own, since it attained the highest degree of singularity in the instantaneous apprehension of a generic multiplicity, wolves. He knew that this new and proper name would be disfigured and misspelled, retranscribed as a patronymic. Page 26, 27. Now, before returning to difference and repetition, here is Deleuze's conclusion of the chapter 1914, one of several groups. The proper name is the subject of a pure infinitive comprehended as such in a field of intensity. What Proust said about the first name, when I said Gilbert's name, I had the impression I was holding her entire body naked in my mouth. The Wolfman, a true proper name, an intimate first name linked to the becomings, infinitives, and intensities of a multiplied and depersonalized individual. What does psychoanalysis know about multiplication? The desert hour, when the dromedary becomes 1,000 dromedaries snickering in the sky. The evening hour, when 1,000 holes appear on the surface of the earth. Castration. Castration, cries the psychoanalytic scarecrow. Castration, castration. Cries dog. Where wolves are a domesticated individual, where there are wild multiplicities. We are not just criticizing psychoanalysis for having selected Oedipal statements exclusively, for such statements are to a certain extent part of a machinic assemblage for which they could serve as correctional indexes, as in a calculation of errors. We are criticizing psychoanalysis for having used Oedipal enunciation to make patients believe they would produce individual personal statements and would finally speak in their own name.